Welcome, capable driver. Today, I'm going to show you 3 different methods for checking your brake fluid. Now, brake fluid isn't all that expensive, and if you learn how to do it yourself, if in doubt, change the brake fluid. It just doesn't take that much effort. But anyway, I'm going to show you 3 different methods. Let's get you in closer. Oh, sorry, the first thing you need to know is where is the brake fluid reservoir located? It's almost always located under the hood, right near where the brake pedal is. So for my car here, I have a left-hand drive car, and so this driving position is right here, and the brake fluid reservoir is right here. It's clear plastic almost always, so you can check the level on it. Now, you might need to clean the brake fluid container a little bit. It can get coated with some dirt, so clean it off right now if you're following along, and let's get to the first method for checking your brake fluid. We're closer here so you can see the brake fluid container easily. You can see there's a max mark and a min mark. You definitely don't want to go above the max mark, and it's even worse if you go below the minimum mark, because that requires a lot of fixes. So you want to keep it in between the 2 marks. Now, the best way to check the level is to use a flashlight. So let me quick turn off the backlight so that you can see this better, and I'll show you how you use a flashlight to check the level. Now, with the light off, you can easily see our brake fluid level, and you can see we're just below the max mark. Now, there's a couple other things you should notice here. It's a nice golden color. It should be a nice golden color when you shine a good flashlight through like this. If it's darker than that, when you shine a good light through, you probably need to replace the brake fluid. That's not super terrible though. Like I said, the low level is the one you really want to worry about, because if it gets low, it can get air into the system, which is bad, but also it's an indication that you have a major problem. The only way to get low, this stuff doesn't get used up. It's supposed to be mostly sealed. So if it's low, either your brake pads and rotors are very badly worn out, or you have a leak in the system. And if you leak out all that brake fluid, you're not going to have any brakes. So you want to make sure that you're not low on your brake fluid. And if it's going low, you can temporarily add brake fluid, just enough to get it the repairs done, or get it to a mechanic who can do the repairs for you. Let me show you quick how to add brake fluid to the reservoir. Adding brake fluid is very easy. You just take this cap off and set it aside. Be careful not to spill brake fluid. Brake fluid can destroy your paint, so be very careful not to spill it. For that reason, if you want to add to the reservoir, I recommend using a funnel, and then you can just pour in the brake fluid through the funnel and make sure you don't spill. Make sure that you don't overfill it. Although if you do overfill it, let me show you how to remove brake fluid from the reservoir tank here. The easiest method to remove brake fluid from your reservoir, and cheapest method, is to use one of these turkey basters. Now, you don't want to buy a turkey baster that has super clear plastic. One time I used that, and the brake fluid deteriorated the plastic and it broke. And that was not a fun scene. I had to clean up a lot. So buy this kind of cloudy clear plastic. This one happens to be polypropylene, although I think on the ad on the online site I bought this on, it said it was nylon, but I think nylon's more white colored. I think this is polypropylene, which is excellent. It's very resistant to that brake fluid. Now, to do this, you might have to remove the little filter screen. It comes just inside the container there, so this filter screen just pulls right out, and you can just set that aside again. Again, it has brake fluid on it, so be careful it doesn't get on paint. And then you just dip this in there and suck it out. We're actually going to do that later, so I'll show you that a little bit later. Before we get to step 2 and 3, if you could subscribe to this channel, I would really appreciate it. The second method is to use one of these electronic testers. You can see on the screen there's a bunch of bars, and the stuff on the right doesn't move actually. Oh, now it went out of focus. But anyway, the stuff on the right doesn't move on this particular tester, but the bars do. And how high the bar goes, you match it up with the thing on the right that tells you the level. Now, I have a problem in this one. I have the filter screen removed, which you should do, but if I try to put this end in there, it encounters a block. It's too big to fit in there. There's some plastic stuff inside here, so I can't actually dip this into the brake fluid. By the way, these electronic testers, they test the amount of moisture in the brake fluid. Moisture is bad for brake fluid. If it gets too much moisture in it, it needs to be replaced to save your system. It will deteriorate the system. It can boil the fluid easier, and it's bad. You don't want to get moisture in the system, and brake fluid does absorb moisture just from the air. So let's get a little more creative so that we can actually check the brake fluid with this tester. So the creative method I'm going to use is to suck some brake fluid out and put it in this little cup. It's a clean, dry cup. It's important because remember we're checking moisture, so be careful you don't spill this. And I don't need a whole lot. I just need a little bit in the bottom, so that, let's get a little bit more in there. I just need a little bit in the bottom of the container so that I can test it. And you can see I took some brake fluid out. I can put it back in later because this was a clean container. Anyway, by the way, you notice it's good to have paper towels around to wipe off your stuff. Let me just set that turkey baster aside. So anyway, I'm going to take this over to the bench and let's test it. Now that we're at the bench, let's test this brake fluid. Hopefully you can see that. So let's dip this in there. And you can see we got, 4 bars or whatever, but we're in the okay region. So that's good. We have good brake fluid for this car. Now, are we sure this tester works? Oh, well, let's give it a quick check here. Let me get rid of this and use my paper towel to wipe off the end of this. And let's try some, quote, contaminated brake fluid. Actually, it's just water. So what happens if I put this in just pure water? Oh yeah, totally gone. So, yep, there we go. By the way, I forgot to mention over there, notice when I wipe it off again, it stops beeping at me like that. This brake fluid tester, and hopefully you can see that well, actually, the reason I bought this is because it has a system where you can change the brake fluid that you want to test. So it does a slightly different test. So I don't know if you can see that. I think you can. So that's a .3 brake fluid. That's a .4 brake fluid, and that's a .5.1 brake fluid. And since I had a .5.1 in this car, that's what I used for the test. So apparently this tester does a slightly different test for each different type of brake fluid. The third method for checking brake fluid, and probably the best, is to use one of these testers to test for the amount of copper in the system. You dip it in there, you wait for about 90 seconds, then you match it up with this card to see what the color is. So let's dip it in there. And then they say shake it off a little bit. And wait for 90 seconds. Again, I'll take this over to the bench so you can see it a little bit better. It's been more than 90 seconds, and you can see our test strip is barely up with the 10% thing, or the 10 on the 10 parts per million of copper. So this is excellent. We have very good brake fluid. It's not anywhere near the color that it should be for the other ones on the card that came with the test strip kit. So we are good for copper. So this brake fluid is actually very good. I hope you learned something today. 3 different methods to check brake fluid. And remember again, if any of those are bad, you should change it. And when in doubt, change the brake fluid. Don't forget to clean up. Make sure you put the cap back on the reservoir. Clean up anything. You can use brake cleaner. That will clean it up. You should recycle or bring the brake fluid that you extracted, if you extracted any, to a hazardous waste location. I like the gallon jugs that you get for water or milk, and empty those out, and I use those for old brake fluid. And then when it gets full, I bring it to the hazardous waste location. Now make sure you label it used brake fluid so that you don't mix it up with anything else. But you bring that to a hazardous waste location. Also, the turkey baster and other things that get brake fluid on them, yeah, you can use brake cleaner. You can also just use plain soap and water. Wipe off as much as you can with paper towels, and then just use soapy water like dish soap to clean it. By the way, never, ever use that turkey baster for turkeys anymore. That is a dedicated brake fluid turkey baster. It's not to be used on your turkey and your other cooking anymore. It's gone, it's done, it's only going to be used for that. So I hope you enjoyed the instructions today. Please like and subscribe to the channel and write a comment. What did you learn, and what would you like to know that I didn't cover in this video?